Was this the biggest psychiatric hospital in Italy?
I'm not sure that this was the biggest one, but I'm sure it's the biggest of Milan, and I think one of the biggest anyway. I think that it was holding around 1,000 or 1,500 people. Sometimes it happens that somebody is celebrating their birthday or their anniversary there, and there is a funeral here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which was something that really struck me at the beginning, because I was like, no, these two things cannot really live together. But then I thought and I said, no, these two things are life.
Yeah, that's part of life.
So
I've always thought that I was a capricciosa pizza kind of guy until recently. Then I tried Nduja in Milan, and my world crumbled for the best. I think I found a new love of my life in the form of an Italian pizza. It was a flavor profile I never knew existed. I was mind blown. The caramelized onion took me to places I've never been until now. And that place is Europe, a restaurant with good food and even greater history. This used to be a mental hospital. Funny because I was going mental with what I just tasted, but what struck me the most is the mission and vision of the social enterprise. Together with people whose passion is to serve, social workers and people with fragilities, this former mental institution is now transformed into a hostel, a theater, and a series of restaurants scattered around the city of Milan, one of which is the Pizzeria e Cucina. To help me understand the history of this cooperative, I met up with David. He used to work in corporate, training people and working for luxury brands, now turned into an educator, overseeing and sailing the ship that is Olinda into the social seas of modern Milan.
welcome to Olinda. Olinda is a cooperative that is doing since 1996 work with the fragile people. But it all started before, because all this park inside was a psychiatric hospital where people were actually held against their will, and where people were not really helped or taken care enough. It was really like a very bad institution that finally the law in Italy decided to close, because that was really, really bad. What our president Thomas Hermenegger thought was, this is an amazing place, like an amazing location where we can transform bad into good. So why not giving a second chance to these people who were fragile and who were totally excluded by the social life or by the society? Why not giving them a second opportunity, or a first opportunity maybe even, doing what? Doing working, so that they could, buy back their life in a way and go on with their life, because we all know that work means money, and money means doing things, falling in love with somebody, marrying somebody, having a little cat or a little dog, doing travel, just living, So that was the project that started almost 30 years ago, and it was called, the project was called Da vicino nessuno è normale, which means from close nobody is normal. That was an old song from the 60s that Basaglia, who was the anti-psychiatrist who started the closing of all these institutions, basically, he took this sentence from that song to become like the claim, the motto of the movement, the anti-psychiatric movement. Anti-psychiatry means being a psychiatrist, but also taking care of the people you deal with, without forcing them into, without locking them, or without exceeding with unnecessary medicines or medicaments. Sometimes medicines are necessary because they compensate some lack in the brain, some chemical lacks into the body. So sometimes they are useful, but at the time when the psychiatric hospital was open, they used to give a lot more than was necessary, so that people become almost like Walking Dead. In fact, some videos of this location before, where the gate was closed and people were locked in, they were walking all the time, all day, like in rounds, in all the park, like Walking Dead, really, like, because with nothing, because the medicine were so high, and so powerful that people could not express themselves at all. So the idea was to transform this place into something nice, even if it started as a not really nice, not nice at all place. So we can go inside, and we go into the square, which is where all the activities now are taking place. So welcome to the restaurant Yodok. Yodok is from a novel from a writer, a Swiss writer, who describes this uncle through the words of his nephews. And through their words, it appears that this uncle is a bit crazy. So we like the idea that of a crazy man, but a very positive character, and we took the name from there. So welcome to the restaurant. So welcome to Yodok Restaurant. This is the bar, so where it all started almost 30 years ago. It was much simpler than that, but the idea was to open these places that were locked for so many years, to open to the public and to make it available to the people. And also in order to help people work, go back to life, to work through the bar, the work in the bar. So that's how it all started almost 30 years ago. And then it became restaurant with the kitchen, and then this is the main room. So this is the main restaurant place. We also have another floor upstairs that we can have a look if you want. The idea is that the people that come here every lunch are people that work here around this area. So they come for a very quick express kind of lunch meal, but it's very reasonable in price, but very nice in quality. So they eat well, and they eat quickly as well, so they can go back to work. In the evening, the restaurant transforms and becomes a pizzeria, and the level of the food goes a bit higher. We change the ingredients, we change the recipes. All the team changes as well, so new cooks, different manager, different staff. So there is two different teams dealing with lunch and dealing with the evening, with the dinner. And we are famous for pizza. Yeah.
What's your specialty here?
Well, we do we do traditional kitchen, mainly Italian kitchen, I would say. It's very famous. The Monday usually it's kitchen from Milano, so risotto milanese, cotoletta alla milanese, potatoes, like the typical food from Milan. On Tuesday we do ethnic, so it could be chicken with soya, or like oriental based recipes, or falafel, these different things. Wednesday is free, usually is like Italian food as well. On Thursday we do fresh pasta, because we have also a laboratory where we produce pasta, and then we have it in the restaurant, in the menu. And on Fridays we do fish, because the Catholic tradition is asking for some fish on Fridays, and we respect that, so we offer also dishes with fish. And then Saturday and Sunday is more like leisure time. People are not working. The people who come here are not really workers. They come for the market. There is a market on Saturday which is very big in the street, so people come from there. They shop in the market and they eat here. And Sunday they do just like a brunch, or they just do like a family reunions and stuff like that.
I noticed that this is quite a bit far from the main city.
It is a bit far, because obviously at the time, when they were opening psychiatric hospitals, they were intended to be outside of the main city. Now, obviously, the city in the meantime has grown up, so it has it's been built around the psychiatric hospital, where before around the psychiatric hospital were only fields. There was nothing. There was no town, yeah. But then, because the town they become bigger and bigger, it got into the town now. It's quite close to the center anyway.
Yes.
Because there is an underground metro just around the corner that takes you to the center in 15-20 minutes, which is very quick for us, and so it's very well linked to the center, still being a bit far from the center.
But for the people that are coming here, usually though, for
Yeah, the majority of the people who come here are, as I was saying, people who work around the area, so they just come for lunch, for the lunch break. They only have 1 hour, so they come quickly eat, and then they go back to work. Some other people are people who come from the services, so like from psychiatric services, because they like the way that we do things, and they like our approach with our workers, and also with the customers, so they like us, so they come come for that kind of experience. And then we have, and that's for lunch. In the evening we have people coming to taste the pizza, which is why we're famous basically in Milano. So they come from all over the town just to taste the pizza.
it's really good.
So as you can see, well, this is the imperial table. Yeah, we call it imperial table because it's made of 4 small tables. So this is something that we created because that it was considered at the beginning when we opened the restaurant like the social table. So the table where single people would come without knowing each other, and instead of taking place in one small table, they are all together and they know each other, and maybe new friendship or new partnership can start. Then we canceled this for a few years because that was not practical for us, and then we brought it back. So prenotato means reserved. Yeah? So it's like many people reserve. So we have the whole restaurant almost reserved at the moment. So people come and they want to have their place here. We still use this table for socializing. Yeah. So it happens that people go there. Maybe they don't talk to each other. Maybe they just say, "Oh, what are you doing? You come from?" It's. And also we use it for Olinda, so for our staff. So it's where the people from our staff come. The people who work here are very different. The majority is people who are coming from services, from psychiatric services maybe, or for. So there is a team of people who takes care of the. Let's say of the rebirth of these people who had a fragile moment or who are fragile themselves, and the majority of them work here through stage or through like an experience, like an on-the-job experience for a few months or years, and this is where they actually go back to life through work basically. Maybe they had some problems, maybe they had some crisis, something that didn't work in their life, and we try to go back to normality through work. Obviously we don't do just that, we really take care of them like at 360 degrees, so even if they have some other issues, some other fragilities, we work with that as well. So we embrace the person as it is, so not just the problem or just the things that they cannot do, but we embrace mainly what they can do, and we push on that, on the potential of each one. Then we have young people who are studying hotellerie, so they are studying to become chef, they're studying to become cooks or bartender or staff from the restaurant, and as well they come here and they have both the school, so they learn the job, but in the meantime, if they have fragilities, we help them go through their fragility as well. And then we have a few students from university who come here to learn the job of being an educator through the service of bringing food to people basically, which is a very complex thing because you have to deal with many different levels at the same time, because as an educator I deal obviously with my colleagues and with the different areas of the restaurant, bar, the cooks and the people who are serving food in the main areas, but also you have to deal with the customers. So it's like a double level thing. So you have to have a very open vision to be able to take everything together, to put everything together. So the amazing thing that happens here every day, exactly on these tables, is that when we are ready to eat, before the service starts, so around 11, 11:30, 11:20, we have our own lunch. So all the staff from the restaurants meets for lunch. And it's amazing because you can easily have around 20 people sitting at the same table, and at the same table you have people who are cooks, who are bartenders, who are people who serve the food on the tables, educators, psychologists, and many other people coming from the different services, and we all eat together. And that's probably the most educative moment of the restaurant, because that's where all these people come together, and you easily find people coming from the 5 continents eating at the same table, all the possible religions, all genders, even the transgenders in between, all sexual orientation and religions, all diets. So like everybody's here, and we talk about what's happening. Sometimes we talk about projects dealing with the restaurant or customers coming or reservations. So sometimes we talk about what's happening in the news, or about single problems or amazing things that somebody has done and want to share with other people. But it's really one sharing moment that is probably the most precious of the whole restaurant life. So on the left you find an hostel. There was an old convent once, convent with nuns, closed, so nobody could enter. Then when the psychiatric hospital opened, that was transformed into where the nurses, or where the medics would sleep, for their turnover before going to work and so on. So now welcome to Ostello Linda. Ostello is one of the first projects that we opened. It was, as I said before, an old convent, but then transformed into, first of all, into a residential place for all the nurses and doctors during the psychiatric hospital. When the psychiatric hospital was closed, then it was transformed into an hostel. So a much simpler idea of hotel, which is a very nice and interesting project, because it mixes, as well as the restaurant, it mixes some tourists and also some people who live here, and the lives of each one get mixed in a funny and amazing way that we're going to see. So as you can see, there is an internal like garden, which it's called impluvium, no? From the Roman way of building houses. So where the rain will fall, so it's possible to have a garden even inside a house. That was, with all columns. This was just walking for the nuns and the priests when it was a convent, and then it was all covered with glass so that this area could become warm. And then all the little rooms from the convent became room for the hotel, for the hostel, basically. This is the reception.
Hi.
Let me introduce you to Valentina, the hostel manager.
Hi.
And Matti.
Hi.
Oh, Valentina and Martin, what do you love most about working here in?
Of course, to meet people from different countries and from different cultures. Not only geographical cultures, but also different cultures. The diversity is our goal, our purpose.
Yeah, I would say meeting with new people, seeing new faces, seeing people with different diversity of of presentation. I love meeting new people and communications. It opens the heart. It makes someone concentrate on knowing new things. It's a good.
This is where we have lunch, where people can eat, and actually we also have a kitchen where our guests can cook for themselves. So that's the idea of the hostel. No, we have fridges where everybody can use a portion and they can cook for themselves. But many times they cook for each other. So there is like meeting, cultures, as Valentina was saying before. It's like not only for us meeting new cultures and new people, but also from tourists meeting between themselves. and creating like new friendships, or maybe even discovering Milan together, because many times we have guests coming alone, so, and maybe they find somebody else who is alone as well, and it's much better to go around in discovering Milano or Como or the lakes or whatever in two or in three groups, no? So this is something interesting. And this is the main room where people can actually meet or watch television or go into the internet and work as well. And this is again an area where very multifaceted, no? Because all the people coming from all different parts of the world can meet together with the people who actually live here, because we also have people that live here and they have been living here for many years. So there is like a combination of cultures and stories and lives that intertwine in the same place, in this very same place. On the right we have our restaurant, so what we transformed into our restaurant. That was before something else, and it was actually the morgue.
Oh.
Yeah? And the idea was actually that, to transform a place of death and sadness into a place of life.
Wow.
And rebirth. So like being born again from a place where usually people were when they were dead. And what we did was open a little bar, like a very simple bar, that in years became then a more serious bar, a more serious restaurant, and now is a very fine restaurant where people come
with great food,
lunchtime, with great food, and so on. And this one in the middle is the church. At the time, that was the church for the psychiatric hospital. Now it's been transformed. It's become an Orthodox church for people from Eritrea.
Oh, okay.
So it's used as a church, but it's an Orthodox, not anymore Catholic church. And they do servings Saturdays and Sundays usually. So it's not very difficult to find on Sundays 200 or 300 women dressed in local dress from Eritrea.
Oh, wow.
Like all white with the turban, everything in white. And they do all the, they go into the mass, they do the mass, but they also eat zigini, the typical food from Eritrea. So, and they cook it together inside the church and they eat together. So it's something amazing. Sometimes it happens on a Saturday where we are open and where we usually have in the restaurant. You have to imagine that all the people in the summer are outside, so we open outside the tables. So it's sometimes it happens that somebody is celebrating their birthday or their anniversary there, and there is a funeral here.
Oh my God.
Yeah? Which was something that really struck me at the beginning, because I was like, no, these two things cannot really live together. But then I thought and I said, no, these two things are life.
Yeah, that's part of life.
So some people following their own religion and everything are totally authorized to grieve, a missed person that is dead. But in the meantime, some people are also authorized to celebrate something else. In fact, we had one day when that happened, one lady was celebrating like the 50th anniversary, I think, of marriage. Yeah. So she turned to me and she said, "Oh, I feel a little bit guilty because we're celebrating, we're having a party, and some people are crying." Oh. I said, "Well, you shouldn't really feel guilty, because I'm sure that the person that they are now grieving once probably celebrated something, So it's part of life. Today you celebrate, tomorrow maybe you are dead, but that's that's part of the circle of life." So. And then she said, "Well, I accept it, and then I feel better." I said, "I'm sure that they're not angry with you if you're celebrating, and I'm sure you can respect their grievance. So it's fine. So this is our project. We also have in the middle of the park, somewhere else down there, a theater.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
The theater was, it's called La Cucina, Teatro La Cucina, so theater, the kitchen. Because that was the kitchen that was cooking for all the 26 buildings where all the psychiatric people were staying and living. So they were actually cooking, and then from that building they would take the food into every single building
See.
to give. So we thought that was amazing because we do restoration, no? We do the restaurant thing, so we create food. So we thought that it was even more amazing, the idea of transforming the old kitchen of the psychiatric hospital into a theater. So culture, because the culture was actually where the starting point of this project, because the idea was when we opened this gate, and people were scared to come in because they were scared of what was inside.
See.
From outside, the people living outside, but even the people inside were scared of going out, even if they were like prisoners. But when you find for all your life a gate that is closed, and then suddenly it gets open, you don't know what you don't know if you can really go through, because it was forbidden up until one day, and then the next day you can. But then people were, so it was amazing to create a cultural event that was, I think, held in '96. So at the big, even before the actual closing down of the psychiatric hospital, to make people come inside and see that there was nothing to be scared of. Maybe there were people who were suffering, fragile people, but still people, human beings. That's what we say. We don't call them heal people or people with problems. They are people, first of all. Yeah.
See.
And the majority were put into this area, into this place, without any reason, like without any acceptable reason, honestly. So that was the idea, to make people come inside through cultural events, and the theater is the next step, basically.
Was this the biggest psychiatric hospital in Italy?
I'm not sure that this was the biggest one, but I'm sure it's the biggest of Milan, and I think one of the biggest anyway. I think that it was holding around 1,000 or 1,500 people.
So what happened to the people that were staying here, like the psychiatric?
The people who were staying here were all, the project was also a much bigger project into the national insurance service. So the way that the Italian government deals with people with problems in general. So the idea was to create communities and create new places where people with different diseases and with different difficulties could be taken care of. Mm-hmm. So the people were actually relocated according to their to the gravity of their problem,
so much better,
into other places where they were not actually locked or forgotten, but where they were taken care of, and where people were actually helping them with their fragilities. Many of them, the majority of them, were actually able to live normally and to go back to work, and that's why the idea was to give them, a new life through work, because we thought the people who actually started this, 30 years ago almost, they thought it was important to give dignity back to these people, because these people, when they were put inside the psychiatric hospital, they would take from them everything. They had no right to vote. They had no documents anymore. Everything was confiscated to them. So they really had nothing in their pockets. No documents, no rights, nothing. So to give them back the rights, obviously, a dignity, their identity, and also work, was actually part of the new era, I would say. And that's what happened actually. So the majority of people were actually able to work, and they started, work into these new projects of the bar, that became a restaurant, and in the hostel or in the theater.
Oh.
So that was the beginning. The Polo, the
Ralph Lauren.
Ralph Lauren.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
And I opened stores in the world, So I was actually telling people, the new staff of new stores, I was introducing them to the philosophy of Ralph Lauren, basically. So and I was chosen because I was actually an expert of mechanical watches.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Ralph Lauren the company asked me to come in to work for them because of the fact that I was an expert of watches, because they were actually introducing mechanical watches into the collection.
Eres Italiano, no? Italiano.
Who?
You.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And but the company, the company is American, so they asked me to work for them. So that I started. And then because I had a degree in languages, they discovered that I could be useful in doing training. So they invested in me, in the sense that they said, why don't we grow him with teachings and stuff like that, so that he can become a trainer. And because I speak fluently English and French, Spanish a little bit, un poquito ma poco, so I could actually work everywhere in the world. So that's why I then got into Europe first, and then the whole world to do training. And that's why they kind of taught me the storytelling. I was already probably able to storytell a bit because of the way I am.
Yeah.
But then I studied to become even more effective in that. So I was opening stores. Yeah, that was and opening stores meant transferring to people who didn't know anything about the story of Ralph Lauren or the philosophy, what was behind that. And to kind of make it warm, to then be able to tell the customers, the story, and make them fall in love with the brand. Yeah.
You would be a great mentor.
I am.
Yeah.
I am already. No, and then I discovered that because I was opening stores everywhere in the world, people at the end of the day will come to me to ask advice on personal things.
Yeah.
And I was at the beginning, I was kind of shocked because we were talking about products. We were talking about polo shirts, bags, shoes, watches, whatever. And then they would come to me and would say, "Oh, I have a problem with my daughter. She's she's not well." Or one other woman in Egypt asked me, "My daughter doesn't want to put the veil on, and my husband is very angry with her. What can I do?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if the veil that women have in that area is because of religion, or because of the culture, or because of your husband. I don't know really what is the reason. So whatever advice I can give you, I don't know what to say. And then it happened so many times that I had to stop to think.
Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing now in going on with the Ralph Lauren opening and so on? Or shall I go towards the people and try to help people and study again to give people the answers they were asking me?
Oh, that's when it hit you that you could actually do more and serve and help people other than in fashion.
Because in fashion, I was doing it, but that was like a really small part of it. My job was to teach people and to tell people, train people about products and everything else. So that was a little minority part of my job, to be able to talk to people like as a human being. And so I decided to actually stop. I said goodbye to Ralph Lauren. So when my career was at the top, and I said maybe I should stop and study. So I tried to figure out what kind of studies could I do, and I discovered that because I was already old enough I couldn't study for another 7 or 8 years, because then I would become 60. So retire, so there was no point. So I chose a study that was only for 3 years, which was Scienze dell'Educazione, Science of Education, which made me become educator, which is also why I'm here, because the part of the study is also an on-the-job experience, like a stage, that I did exactly in the hostel.
Okay.
In this hostel that I didn't know before, because I didn't know anything about the story of this place, because I'm not from Milan. So I was like, okay, let's try. The funny thing was, when they told me about this place, they told me, they work with the psychiatric people, but they do it through a restaurant, an hostel, and a theater. And I thought they must be crazy. Because I always thought that these people would be in a community, in a different kind of institution, but not a restaurant or an hostel or a theater. So I said, I want to try. And then the first hour that I was in the hostel, I fell in love with the project. and I discovered that that would be my future, that I wanted that to be my future, so that the studies I did were good, that I was right in stopping my previous career and in doing this kind of paradigm shift, change of mind, and turn towards people, human beings, rather than companies, because before I was working for a very rich company.
David, you mentioned that you have 2 degrees, right? Because what was your original degree?
The original one was foreign languages applied to tourism and commerce and business. And it was a 4-year degree, 3 years of which I did in France, and 1 year I did in England, in the UK. So it was like a foreign degree. I didn't take it in Italy. Yeah, it was already, because I thought the languages are much better. You study much better languages if you go abroad, where the language is actually spoken, rather than doing it in Italy, where the majority of the courses, even if it's language, they are in Italian. Like the story of the language is made in Italian. So what's the point? If you're talking about the English language, you should do it in English. So at the time, I'm talking 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. The study was in Italian, so I prefer to go abroad.
That's good, because you were picking up new tools.
It was
everywhere.
And also, it was a course, a totally different course that in Italy didn't exist, because it was not literature, so not towards literature, but it was towards being practical and becoming a manager. So it was like more letters, like commercial letters, marketing, all the things that were useful for business, basically, or tourism business. And that's also why I like the idea of doing the stage in Ostello, because the hostel is like an hotel, no? It's a simple hotel with different rules, but still is tourism. We have tourists coming, like you, from everywhere in the world, and staying here as tourists or as researchers or many different people.
But how did you find out about this social enterprise? Who connected you to this?
This one was presented to me by my university. The university, when you have to choose your stage, your on the job, the trial on the job that you have to do, basically, they gave all the students a list of places that they are recognized by the university to be able to teach you or to do this on the job project. And then as soon as I read that they were dealing with psychiatrist problems, and through restaurant or hostel, I said, wow, I have to try. Something new, it was something totally new.
So how long have you been working here?
Now it's been 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So not very long, but I felt straight away, like at home. From the minute one. So that was I discovered that this was the place where actually I wanted to work, and I also saw the potential of new things that I could implement and I could bring to make it work even better, or to make it really work as an educating project, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, so David, you manage the entire place, not just the restaurant, right?
No, I don't actually manage the entire place. There is many other colleagues who take care of the whole project, because we have 4 restaurants, 1 hostel and 1 theater. So in total we have 6 realities where people are working. And what I deal with, what my job is to work with the people, mainly with the fragile people who actually have here a stage, or they do some kind of work experience to go back to life, as we were saying, but also the other part of the workers, because it would be impossible not to be inclusive, because if you are really inclusive, it means that you have to take care of everybody, not just the people who have problems or fragilities, and then the others, because then who decides who is fragile and who is not? I may be as fragile as the people I work with, and maybe I don't know it yet, or maybe I'm not ready to accept it, So I start with the point, in my head, everybody is potentially may have fragilities. So I'm here for everybody. So what I do is I offer like one-to-one meetings. With also another colleague of mine who's a psychologist. So we take care of the mind of the people, of their thoughts, if there are anxieties or if they have some fears or whatever. So this is a kind of an extra thing that we do here, and that's probably why the project works so well, because we're not just doing food or giving people food. We do that, so that is obviously the way that the cooperative La Fabbrica di Olinda can make money, but the money obviously doesn't go into my pockets or anybody's pockets, because we are a non-profit company, so obviously there is no owner. So the money goes into more education projects, so into more helping basically. So what we do is yes, to work with the people, we work together, but we also take care of their anxieties or their fragilities, and that's what we do in our team, where a psychologist and an educator are working together with sometimes we do projects like group projects, collective projects. So we reunite the staff from the restaurant or from the staff from the hostel, and we do some meetings that are like helping us to work better together, that help us deal with the everyday difficulties that they encounter while working. Sometimes we do like individual meetings, so we take care in many different ways basically of and what I do is I take care of the restaurants basically, so the staff from the restaurants and the hostels. So I go around. I work in every single place every day. I move and I supervise, let's say, that everything is going well, that everything is going smoothly, that all the anxiety that they may have is a bit taken care and possibly solved or resolved.
So this is privately funded, and this is a private project.
It's not. Yes, it is in the sense that we don't get money from the government. We get the money through the work through the service that we do, to the work that we do, which is making food or giving hospitality to people. So that's like a commercial reality. It's a commercial business, but the money doesn't go into anyone's a specific person's pockets. It goes into the cooperativa, and the cooperativa then employs this money to even further help people and create the structure basically.
Non-profit organization then.
Totally non-profit. We are an onlus, so we so basically the law requires that all the money that comes is reinvested within the company and doesn't go into pockets of the people. Obviously each one of us has a salary, so we have salary, so we get paid, but we get paid our job as everybody else, but all the exceeding money is reinvested into the cooperativa.
This is very self-sufficient then.
Yeah, it's very difficult to be self-sufficient, because it doesn't, we're working really hard every month to make everything work and to be able to give the salary to each one and to be able to implement the education programs and everything. It's not always easy, because we are facing a lot of expenses as well. No? You have to think that in a place where we have a very high percentage of our income that goes into staff salary, because instead of having maybe one person, we may have 3 people, doing the job of one. So obviously that means 3 salaries. That's exactly how it's intended to be. So and 3 salaries and 3 people working here means 3 families.
See.
Because each worker has a family, or maybe brings the money in his family to feed his children or his parents sometimes, or his family anyway. So it means a lot of responsibility, by giving. So, but the expense is really much higher than any normal company, where the salary percentage of the whole income is much less.
But what happened during the pandemic, though, when everything had to close
During
down?
the pandemic, we were amazingly good in giving the salary to each one every time, every month, even if they were not working. Because obviously we were closed to the public, because during the pandemic the hostel was totally closed down, because people could not work, could not travel between regions, and you couldn't go in the street without any permission, so obviously that was closed, and it became like a refuge for all these people who were coming out of the psychiatric department from the hospital, and they couldn't by law go back to the street. Maybe they were taken from the street, but they couldn't go back to the street, so they needed to have a secure place to stay during the pandemic. So we transformed the hostel, which is usually open to the public. People do their bookings and they come here for tourism and everything. So we transformed that into like residential place for people who didn't have any house, any home, and they couldn't go back to the street where they usually come from. So, and that was an amazing project that we did with the Niguarda, with the hospital. And the restaurant was closed as well, but in the majority of the times we could manage for like takeaway pizza. So we organized it to just for the pizza, so we didn't do any kitchen, because we do both. Now we do kitchen and so pasta, meat, whatever, and pizza. So we couldn't do the kitchen, but we pushed on the pizzas, and because delivery was allowed, was possible, when it was possible, because not all the time it was possible, when it was possible we managed to do that. So we tried to survive and to have people working anyway.
It's so great to hear that.
But the amazing thing was we didn't lose any of our workers. We didn't we kept paying the salary all the time, even in difficult times. So that was really something, really amazing for us, because many other cooperative, unluckily, they had to close because they couldn't really manage, they couldn't do anything basically. So we managed to survive. And here we are. The name of the cooperativa is La Fabbrica di Olinda. Olinda is a name of a city, of an invisible city, in a book from a very important Italian author, who's Italo Calvino. In his book he talks about around 50 different cities that he invents. They don't exist, and each one has a name and some characteristic. We choose Olinda because the city of Olinda in this book is a city that gets, is born in this main square, comes out from the earth, and then opens up like a flower, pushes away but without destroying the previous city, and the walls and everything stays there. It's fantasy, obviously. The book talks about 50 imaginary cities, of course. So you have to imagine this city that comes out like a blossom, flourishes, opens, and becomes the new city without destroying the previous one. The previous one becomes just bigger, like the different rings of a tree. You know that you can tell the age of a tree. When you cut a tree, you discover how many rings you have, and every ring is 1 year. So the same happens to this Olinda city. So the old city is not destroyed, stays there, becomes bigger, and a new one comes from the center. And that was the idea of using that name here, because from the old psychiatric hospital there was something that was bad, but we don't need to cancel that. We need to remember. We need to remember the bad in order not to repeat bad things, to repeat the same mistakes. So the idea is Olinda that is born in the center of this place that was an horrible place before, but then becomes a new life and a new city and a new beginning. Yeah.
And David, to close this session, I just want to ask, where do you see this project in 5 years?
I think this project will be here again, still for sure. What we are going to do, something I know already that we are going to do. So we are going to reorganize this square so that it really becomes one whole entity, you know, so that we try to put together the restaurant with the hostel, maybe having something in between, like a little bar or a little something that reunites and makes the square like alive. But mainly I hope that this project is going to become even bigger and is able to open more locations and of course be able to help more people and to work with more people. So I hope this happens, because you know, more and more people go through fragilities, and not many actors take care of this. You know, the sanitary service is not able to face everything, to face all the problems, and many times people are left alone. So we try to collect these kind of fragilities and try to help the majority of people. And the more we become, the bigger we become, and probably more help we can give to people.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
On the beach, running a restaurant, one of our restaurants, but maybe, you know, on the beach.
Well, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
I am so amazed and in awe
Thank
of
you.
you.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much
you for doing
for asking.
this work.
Thank you.